Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome to Where They At. I'm Alex.
And I'm Taylor.
And today we're going to be planning a trip to
Paris. So, the first thing I wanted to start on is when to go. Obviously, the 4 seasons, I'm going to split it up into. So, if you want to go in the winter, it's beautiful. Any season in Paris is beautiful. So, it's really just about what type of trip that you want to have. The winter is crowded and cold, and since it's cold, you're going to need jackets, and it's just going to be extra luggage on you. But you do have the whole Christmas ambiance in Paris, which is like beautiful to see. It does snow there, and it's going to be more expensive because it is holiday pricing. So that's something you have to think about if you're budget traveling like we did. The next most crowded time is summer, and it's crowded and hot, obviously. It gets to like 100 degrees normally in the summer. I went for my first trip in the summer. It was good. It was very crowded. Everything is open. Things are open later. Every museum that you could want to see is open in the summer, and all of the plants are mostly bloomed already. So you won't see things like the Japanese cherry blossoms anymore because it's too hot for them, just regular flowers. It is beautiful, though, to see everything in full bloom in Paris. Our first off-season time is spring. Most things are open in the spring or opening up in the spring. It just depends when you go. We're talking about March, April, and May. Like I said, the Japanese cherry blossoms bloom in May, and they are beautiful to see. They were gifted to France, so it is a really big celebration. They have some shops and stuff that open specifically for the blooming of the Japanese cherry blossoms, and it's just a really big, beautiful deal there. A lot of new exhibits are put out in the off seasons because they're getting ready for the high seasons of Christmas and summertime. So you'll see a lot of new exhibits being put out, and you'll be able to see them first come, which is really cool, just seeing an exhibit opening. Paris Fashion Week also comes in the end of spring, early summer, so if you go during that time, you will see that. I went in early June, in the first 2 weeks of June last time, and I was hitting all of the Paris Fashion Week people at my hostel, and it was really cool. So if you want to see that, those are the times. I know there are winter shows, but again, just extra luggage, everything. If you can afford that, definitely see it in the winter, but we're budget friendly. The time we chose for our last trip was autumn, and it was just really a cool experience in every aspect. It was really nice weather. It didn't get cold until the end of our trip, and that wasn't even cold. It does rain, so you get to see Paris in the rain, and that with the lights is just a beautiful experience. It's pear season, which we learned the last time that we went there. The fruit in the autumn is just amazing and fresh. And you get to see all the falling leaves and the fall atmosphere. That's just really beautiful. The first thing you're going to need going to any foreign country is a passport. A passport is $125. It's going to take you about 7 to 10 weeks to get it in the mail. You can get your passport photos done at Walgreens, CVS, and UPS. They're really good about letting you see your passport photos there, unlike some drugstores. If you need your passport expedited for any reason, it's $60 extra, and you'll get it in 5 to 7 weeks, which is a lot sooner than the 7 to 10, and the 7 to 10 is also not promised. The next best thing to look up for a foreign country is any travel restrictions that they might have. Paris right now has no COVID travel restrictions, so that is good if you're looking to go without any restrictions. There are restrictions, however, for certain protests that are going on in the state, and especially in Paris. because it is the most populated city out of all of France, so obviously people are going to protest. Basically, you can go during protests, and if there's any major protests outside of your hostel or hotel or anywhere you're staying, just be respectful of their right to have freedom of speech and protest, and, don't be rude or speak to them in any ill manner because they are protesting for their rights and they do live in Paris full time, unlike you vacationing. So travel restrictions are set right now for the protests that are happening. They are interfering with some people's flights, Ubers from the airports, and metro systems, so just keep that in mind. You may be paying extra to go during a active protest, which it has been for the past few months. So to keep up to date, you can also download the Bonjour Rapide bus app, and it will tell you of any route closings through metros, and you can also look up any strikes, any public protests that are about to happen. They usually are publicized, especially if you're going. This is something that you need to look up and find out what is happening the week you are there, to make sure that you're not in the middle of anything you don't need to be into the middle of. The next thing to branch off into is where to stay, I think, in Paris. So, right now, my personal favorite place to stay is the 15th arrondissement. It is a walking distance to the Eiffel Tower. Really beautiful scenery all around there. A lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small shops, cafes, central to everything that you'd kind of see on a tourist pamphlet to Paris, while also being able to have access to the metro routes and everything all around the city. So it is pretty good to stay in the 15th. The next one I would pick is probably the 5th arrondissement, and that is the Latin Quarter, and the Latin Quarter is just beautiful. It's walking distance to the Notre Dame, which is also an amazing place to be and stay, and it's got a lot of rich Latin culture and a lot of food that's just amazing over there. There is a rich nightlife and culture there, as well as jazz, gay bars, a lot of things. It can be family friendly or just like a night out with friends. There's a lot of history in the Latin Quarter, and it's just a really cool place to experience, and I would assume also stay. There are some cheap hotels over there because it is a big tourist area. That's looking around like the Notre Dame. It's, again, like a 15-minute walk from the Notre Dame to the Latin Quarter, and there are major train stations, and it's really accessible to everywhere because that is one of the other main tourist spots to go in Paris. The next one I'll be talking about is the 2nd arrondissement, and if you like small shops and you like to kind of rummage around in thrift stores and find something that's unique for you, the 2nd arrondissement is probably the place to stay. It is not the safest place to stay in Paris because it is a lot of locals there. Less tourist attractions in the 2nd arrondissement mean that there are more locals and cheaper hotels, and it just means it's a little bit more unsafe for tourists to be touristing around there. Staying there, though, is a beautiful experience. A lot of foliage, a lot of really historical shops that have been open since the 1700s, things that you definitely want to see. The oldest bakery in Paris is in the 2nd arrondissement, so we're talking about old family-owned shops. The next one that I would look into if you're looking to go and stay is the 3rd arrondissement, and that is one of the big art centers of Paris. It is close to the Louvre, and it has a lot of historical cafes, a lot of cafes in general, just on the more expensive side of like shops and just a lot of art exhibits. That's the place you would go if you're going off season trying to catch a new exhibit. Definitely would stay there and just kind of hunt. Yeah, beautiful. A lot of stuff blooms in the summer there because it is a tourist destination with the Louvre being so close. And that's really all I would say about that. Hotels are going to run you on the expensive side though. And the last one I would stay in, just because of cost, not because of looks, is the 8th arrondissement. It is quite expensive to stay there. It'll run you a little bit more than average to stay over there, but you will be close to the Champs-Élysées, the entrance to the catacombs, so much more. It's where all of the people who have money live, and so you'll get to see some of that rich Paris life, like literally rich Paris life, instead of the slow Paris life that you'll see in all the other arrondissements. It's really beautiful. And there are more places than just the Arc de Triomphe over there. There's just a lot of up and coming restaurants and things being built. Young kids just out of college for culinary school, so cool bars and stuff. A lot of speakeasies over there. It's just a really cool vibe experience if you're trying to go out at night and shop and, do the luxe things of Paris. An honorable mention for a place to stay where I've actually already stayed is the 13th arrondissement. My only backdraw of the 13th is the ways away it is from the Eiffel. It was almost a 20-minute Uber every single time I went. I'm sure the buses are less, but I, of course, Ubered everywhere because I'm an idiot. That's my only drawback. It was really good local life, a lot of really cute cafes, and people really did talk to me there and were really nice that I was American, which I know people have had bad experiences outside of the touristy places of Paris with people being rude to them, but I was really accommodated my first time when I was staying over there, and people were very kind around my hostel, which was the Joe and Joe in Gentilly, France. Obviously, past Paris is Nice, France, which is another really historical and beautiful city. There's also Luxembourg and the French countryside. Just a lot of beautiful places to go and see. So obviously this is a video just about going to Paris, but I would definitely recommend if you're going to Paris to take a train and just go all around Paris because the countryside is also amazing. And if you love the slow life of Paris, you'll love the even slower life of the countryside in France. Now we're moving on to hotels, and I'm not going to shout out any specific hotel names because I've only stayed in 2 hostels so far. I haven't actually stayed in a hotel in Paris yet. I'm sure they're beautiful. I'm sure there's some duds as well. But I'm just going to be talking about how to find a cost-effective hotel that you like. What I do is I'll look up the arrondissement that I decided I would like to stay in on Google Hotels. And I'll look that up and I'll go to the maps mode. So then I can compare all of the hotels in that arrondissement and every arrondissement around it and make sure that I'm staying in the arrondissement I'd like to stay in or the one that is just the most cost effective to me. If cost doesn't matter to you, obviously pick whichever one is the most beautiful. So basically, Airbnbs are the next thing I'm going to talk about, and Airbnbs are cost effective as well if you're staying for long-term stays. I would definitely get an Airbnb. It's the most cost effective for anything like that. Renting a room from somebody on whatever site is just not safe, and if you're going for a long period of time, I would just use Airbnb. They do have a tax through the state on Airbnbs. Just if you are renting, just be aware that you will be needed to produce the amount of the tax usually when you go to your Airbnb to check in, just because of competition from Airbnb and hotels in the area. They make you pay a tax on your Airbnb. You can find a lot of great stays there. There are a lot of the famous stays that people have showed on TikTok and everything are through Airbnb. A lot of them are booked up really quick, but if you can find one, definitely snag it. They're beautiful. They're expensive, the ones on TikTok, but you can find a lot of accommodations and stuff. Just be ready for stairs. A lot of stairs. Even in the hotels and hostels, you'll find stairs. It's rare to find an elevator unless it's a new or luxe hotel. With all of these hostels, hotels, and Airbnbs, just be ready for places that do not have air conditioning. I stayed in the Joe and Joe in Gentilly, and they did not have any air conditioning. There are a multitude of hotels that do not have any air conditioning, so if you're going in the summer, keep that in mind. If you would like a hotel with air conditioning, you can definitely find one. It's just going to run you a little bit more expensive, especially in the summer, because people are booking them up like crazy. Average price of flights right now is $500 for off season. Currently it is on season, so it's gonna run you about $1,000 round trip to get there, unlike the $500 round trip on off season. Just be aware of that when you're buying flights, especially if you're buying on off season. It is sometimes more cost effective to buy the flight right before you go, because they will drop flights down cheaper if they're not selling enough spots on the flight, and they try and get as much money as they can out of you on off season from the flights to Paris. Again, with your flexibility, the cheaper a flight you find, the more flexible you'll have to be in overlays and having to stay in other countries for a few hours to a lot of hours. My first flights had a lot of connections. They were also really expensive, so that can vary depending on when you're going. I went in June my first time. We had just gone in October. Very different experiences. I would say going in October is better for flights because we got a better flight with no connections, and it was just really calm and a good experience to fly there, which I did not have my first time. Going into my first time, you will lose some bags if you're going to a lot of connection flights, because if you're going on a flight with 3 or more connections into Dublin, which is really popular, or England, which is also a really popular connection, they just really have some strict baggage rules that France wouldn't even have with liquids. I know England is really strict on liquids, so if you're going through there and you're trying to get like a foundation that's just a little bit over, they will stop you, they will take it out, and they will trash it. Bags can sometimes get lost too, just because of having to run to terminals and they don't have enough space for your carry-on. So they'll check it and not have it. There's just a lot of lost bags. That's why we carry travel-ons. When we travel, we don't usually carry big luggage because there's just too much of a chance of everything you own being lost for the entirety of your trip, or forever in some cases, which is literally terrifying if you're on a trip internationally. The next thing in the flight section of all of this is what class you're going to be staying in your flight there. So basically you have basic economy, which is what Google shows you when you look up all of the flights and everything. It's going to be your cheapest option. Basically, basic economy, and some airlines can not even include carry-on bags. So I would just make sure that the flight that you're buying includes everything that you need to get there with your things. If you're bringing anything, if you like to travel with no carry-on bags, go ahead and buy an economy flight and pay for them if you bring them. I upgraded to just regular economy because we did our carry-on bags. That's just how I like to travel, is just with a carry-on anywhere international, because I don't want to lose any of my bags, and it's least likely for you to lose a bag when you're bringing it on the plane with you everywhere you go. You can upgrade your economy seat for a comfort seat, and that gives you more space, all of the comforts that you get in economy class, and then you go up the ladder with business class, and that obviously has more space, better food, better accommodation. They do include bags, I know that for sure, and it goes all the way up until first class and higher than that. And if you fly first class, you obviously know how that's going to be. It's going to be very luxe and, good food, room service type, free alcohol. It's going to be a vibe. Now, we were on a economy flight to Paris, and we actually did also get free alcohol. We got free champagne and free wine twice while we were on the plane. It was really cute. We went through American Airlines, which I would recommend. It just felt like a simpler transition through the airport and everything into the plane than when I flew through Lufthansa Airlines, which is a German airline. Moving on to transportation, I would say the metro system is your most cost effective bet and honestly quickest in some circumstances to get to everywhere you need to be. We just used the metro the last time that we went, and it was really easy. I did not use the metro the first time I went. I only used Ubers, and if you've ever been to Paris, you would know that it takes almost 20 minutes to drive anywhere along the city just because of traffic of people driving. So sometimes the metro is quicker. Uber is also going to cost you anywhere from $20 US to $40 US around the city, depending on when and where you're going. So a metro ticket is going to cost you €2.80. So that's a lot cheaper than the $20 to $40 on an Uber that you would spend normally. Granted, you are going to still have to get Ubers from some places. During the shutdowns, though, and the protests, I know it's been pretty hard to get Ubers in and out of some airports directly connecting to Paris. I have not been there through the protests, so I would not know exactly how to get around that, but I'm sure the metro system is protected in some way to help get you to the city. Lastly, with just transportation, you can also get a train to any of the previous cities I mentioned, like Nice and the French countryside and Luxembourg. You can see all of those places, especially Versailles, just on the train. It's a lot cheaper than getting a Uber or anything out of the city. That's just going to be way too expensive, and it's just going to honestly dampen the experience with all of the traffic.
Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Alex. I'm editing here, and I just wanted to pop in and say that Taylor did want to mention that Versailles is also a must go too. I also want to say thank you, but I'll get more into that whenever I pop in at the end of the video. So I'll let Taylor get back to it, and I appreciate you guys.
I hope this video helps you shape your own itinerary and the experience that you would like to have in Paris. Our next video is going to be us going to the 15th arrondissement and taking you step by step through our itinerary in Paris. Following that is our day to day and our way to Paris, so stay tuned for that. I'm gonna go and finish up my makeup right now, so we'll be back with a recap and final look. This is my final look, and Alex is here to recap everything.
We're super excited to bring you along with us. Here, let me take this. We're super excited to bring you along with us. Our next video is, as she said, going to be about our itinerary in the 15th arrondissement. And okay, so all of our cameras and all of our phones are dying. So basically, that wraps up this video. We want to thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you subscribe because we are going to be coming back with more
like and subscribe. Videos. Ask us questions too if you want to know. We've traveled to quite a bit of places. We've literally been to 22 different states and 4 different countries together combined. So any questions you have about traveling, any questions you have about traveling, just ask us and we'll probably be able to answer it.
Right, yeah. Or we will just Google it, pretend we know.
Yeah.
Alright, that's the end of this video. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and we're out. Bye.
Bye.